A mysterious force knocks the moon from its orbit and sends it hurtling on a collision course with Earth and life as we know it. This is Moonfall and my review. Okay, yeah, so Moonfall. Just had the opportunity to see it. New film by Roland Emmerich, the master of disaster, shall we say. Film is rated 12A, runs for 2 hours and 10 minutes. The film was written by Roland Emmerich, Harold Closser and Spencer Cohen on a budget of roughly about $150 million. So a big budget disaster film. The film stars Halle Berry, Patrick Wilson from the Conjuring franchise, Watchmen, among other things, and John Bradley as Casey Houseman. Now, you might recognise John Bradley from his turn in Game of Thrones. Yes. The film also has supporting roles by Michael Pena and Donald Sutherland in a small role. A blink and you miss it almost role, or a doze off and you'll miss it role. Anyway, so, yeah, Moonfall. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to throw up a spoiler. Yeah, now all the time this is up, the film will be spoilt for you. But if you want to shuttle search forward to when this is missing, then I'll be talking about the film in general and my thoughts on the movie. So you know. So yeah, so that's there, that's in place. When that's gone, you know it's safe. So skip forward if you don't want to hear this stuff. Okay, so we're introduced to astronauts Jacinda, played by Halle Berry, and Brian Harper, played by Patrick Wilson. They're on mission in space several years ago, and they're out on a spacewalk. Well, Patrick Wilson is with another colleague of his, and Jacinda, Halle Berry, is inside the spaceship, and an anomaly attacks the ship. Halle Berry doesn't get to see it, but it kills the other astronaut, but Patrick Wilson gets to safety. Now, back on Earth, he's laughed at for telling people what he saw, which is like this entity in space, a sort of robotic entity, shall we say, and he goes on to have a washed up sort of career and life, losing his wife and all this sort of thing, while Jacinda, Halle Berry, goes on to become the head of NASA, and yeah, all this sort of stuff. Anyway, we jump forward into time and we find out that Earth is on this, that the moon has shifted its orbit and is on a course to get closer and closer to the Earth as it circles by, as it, eventually hitting the Earth, breaking up and killing all life as we know it. We're introduced to John Bradley's character, Casey Houseman, who's a bit of a sort of a conspiracy theorist nerd, and he believes that the moon is a megastructure, that it is hollow in the inside and built by aliens and this sort of a thing. And this gets the ball rolling. Obviously, the military and NASA, they attempt to get a mission together to go and see what's occurring with the moon. This mission ends in failure, and it's up to Patrick Wilson, Halle Berry, John Bradley, their characters, to go on a mission to save the Earth. Eventually, they manage to get up into space, while they've got some family issues on the ground with their respective partners and their children, trying to get to safety and all this sort of stuff. Whilst up there, they get taken into the moon, and they come to learn that there's essentially a war going on between an artificial intelligence that all these little nanobot type of robots join together to create, and the human race. And we find out that the existence of the human race has actually come from far off in the stars, that the human race actually existed out there, and what it's done is it's created these orbs to go and spread the seed, so to speak, and create new life and seed planets with DNA. And while you've got the artificial intelligence, which was created by the human race up there in the stars millions of years ago, that wants to wipe out all life and this sort of a thing, and these things have been sent into space to find and wipe out life, and one has come across the moon some time ago, and blah 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 blah. All this sort of stuff goes on. So yeah, that's pretty much the film in general. I'm not going to spoil any more, or the ending, all this sort of stuff. So now I'm just going to get into my general thoughts on this film. Now, I like disaster movies. I like this sort of genre of film. I like the ridiculousness. I embrace that ridiculousness, the stupidity, the overall stupidity of it all. Now, Roland Emmerich is a director. He's now working solo, no Dean Devlin involved. So you have lost a bit of that sort of team in the making there, and it does sort of notice. Now, Roland Emmerich, as you know, he's been involved in films like Independence Day, 1998 Godzilla, Day After Tomorrow, 2012, all these, you know, Independence Day Resurgence. He's involved in all of these films. So he knows what to do with disaster movies, but obviously each time he ups the ante. Now this film is a disaster movie, sort of wrapped up with a science fiction plot as well, that we get more so throughout the second half of the film. So the characters, you know, Patrick Wilson is fantastic. He's a fantastic actor anyway. He's very enjoyable. And his character in this is quite cool and suave and this sort of a thing. That sort of, you know, the sort of characters you get who you just want to be, that sort of a character. Halle Berry, she carries her performance fine within the film. She's very enjoyable in the role. And John Bradley is somewhat fantastic in his role. He's a very likeable character, a very enjoyable character to watch, and this sort of a thing. The stuff with their families aside, which you keep flitting back to, comes a bit monotonous, to be honest. It's not really needed. It's just to give a little bit of melodrama and stuff that's happening on Earth. Now, all the three primary actors, they deliver their lines in a very believable way, that they're trying to sell and evoke what is going on, and it's very enjoyable. Now, the problem that I have with the film overall is that there's no real sense of danger, of threat, of this sort of thing. All right, the world's getting destroyed, but you don't feel it. You see it happening, but you don't. It's like everything's done from afar. It's like long shots of the destruction. You don't see it on a personal level too much. You don't see what's going on. You know, it's following the families, the kids, and that sort of thing. But you still don't get this sense of danger. It's more like a fairground ride. It's more like 2012 had the same issue. 2012, I mean, I've always said that 2012, the end of the world's never looked so exciting and fun, and this film conveys the same sort of fun about the end of the world. So that's a real issue. Yeah, you just don't experience that what's going on with the planet, with the Earth, with the moon getting as close to it as what you thought you may have done. I like where the story went with the science fiction element of the story. You know, where you find out about the origins of Earth and all this sort of stuff. And, you know, and obviously it throws religion on its head and all this sort of thing. And I like it when stories do that anyway. So that was very intriguing and this sort of thing. Now, I think the primary problem with the film for me, even though I did enjoy it, is that it's so reminiscent of stuff that I've seen before. There's Armageddon, there's Deep Impact, you know, there's stuff from 2012 with the waves and you got the gravity wave. The gravity wave is exactly the same as what Independence Day Resurgence done, with the ships coming close to the Earth and everything sort of coming upwards because the gravity's being distorted, that sort of thing you've got going on. You know, the ground cracking up and the cars jumping over when lumps of the Earth are breaking, and you know, that's 2012. There's elements when they're inside the moon towards the end, and they're in the megastructure of the moon, and Patrick Wilson's taken and is conversing with who he converses with, and it's very much like Star Trek Deep Space Nine with the emissary when they go into the wormhole and that sort of a back and forth. It reminded me of that. There's just so many elements of the film that's it just feels like it's taken from other stuff all the way through. So there is that part of it, and thusly that detracts from the film. Now, like I said, with a film like this, you've got to embrace that ludicrousness. So it either works for you, it doesn't. But I'm happy to step in and take that ludicrousness and run with it and enjoy it. So I do enjoy this sort of film. I enjoy that there's no sort of primary antagonist, in the sense that there's no villain and that sort of thing. It's just man and man survival over extreme odds. And that's a very interesting concept to me that I enjoy watching. The soundtrack from the film has been done by Harold Closser, who was one of the writers, and another unfortunately named individual, Thomas Wanker. Yes, now obviously the word wanker has a completely different context in America as to what it does over here in the UK. So over here he's somewhat unfortunately named. Yeah, now I'll just say I don't swear in my videos, I don't use foul language, but honestly this is the guy's name and I have to mention it. Now the soundtrack for the film, I can't remember much about it. I can't remember whether it was very good or not. It didn't speak to me, it didn't... yeah, it wasn't overly memorable. The special effects are fantastic, although there are elements of it, a lot of it that's obviously filmed on green screen and filmed inside on sets due to the pandemic. There was meant to be a lot of shooting exterior, but they couldn't do it because of COVID, so they had to build tons of sets inside. But other than that, $150 million, it's all up there on the screen and it looks fantastic. This is that sort of film you just go to, you leave your mind at the door, you munch on your popcorn, you watch it, you enjoy it, you come away and you've had a blast like you've been on a roller coaster ride. Unfortunately it just feels like it's a roller coaster that you have been on before several times, and thus you don't get that freshness or that vibrancy of a brand new experience, because like I said, everything in the film reminds you of something else. Now I'm going to go into a little bit of trivia territory now for you. Yeah, so in my reviews I will give you a little bit of trivia now and again, so let's just get into it. Trivia. Okay, so yeah, trivia for this film. Okay, first up, Josh Gad was originally meant to be cast as Houseman, but he couldn't do it because of scheduling conflicts, and thusly stepped in John Bradley. I mean, Josh Gad is pretty good in what he does, but John Bradley was fantastic in this film. He was very good. He was a very likeable character, and he done a very good job with the lines he had and the performance he had to deliver, and so it was spot on. This is actually one of the most expensive independently produced films of all time. Yeah, so it's, you know, it wasn't all from financial backers. It was, yeah, there we go. They may come to regret that after its performance. 2 sequels have been spoken about. Yeah, Roland Emmerich says that if this film does really well, he has 2 sequels in mind that would be filmed back to back. The film does end in such a way that it leaves the door open to sequels in a sci-fi kind of a way. And to me, this feels like he's wanting to do sequels because he didn't get to do a third Independence Day, and the similarities are there, and you could see how a third Independence Day script could possibly be reworked into a sequel to this, or the ideas that he possibly had for that could be worked into a potential part 2 or 3 for this film if it ever got that far. So yeah, so that's now to round up. The other, just to talk about the emotional impact of the film. Although you went on a journey with these characters and you enjoyed these characters, there wasn't ever an emotional attachment to them, in a sense that you felt there was any danger, or even when stuff happened at the end, you didn't feel that sort of overwhelming sense of yes bravado that you get from other films like maybe Armageddon and Independence Day. It tries to do it, but ultimately it drops the ball. So all in all, it was a fun time. It was a very fun film, but very much reminiscent of stuff that we have seen previously in the past, which is somewhat unfortunate. But it was a fun time. It isn't a bad movie. Just leave your brain at the door, embrace that ridiculous ludicrousness that this film is all about, and you will have fun. That's the way you've got to look at it. Anyway, this is AJ. That was my review for the movie Moonfall, directed by Roland Emmerich. Now, if you enjoyed that and you want to come back for more, then please consider hitting the subscribe button and what else? That notification bell. That'll keep you apprised of any upcoming content that I do. And not only that, if you leave me a comment down below, I will reply to all comments. Have you seen this film? Tell me your thoughts on it. Am I way off base with my review? Do you think it was the biggest load of crap you've ever seen, or do you enjoy it? Come let me know and we'll have a friendly discussion. Anyway, that was it. Take care all, and I'll see you on the next one. Goodbye.